Hey everyone, it's Elijah here, and today I'm going to be talking about Dune Part 2. This Dune, the book, is split up into 3 different parts, and today I'm going to talk about the second part. This time I'm not going to be so boring though. I'm not going to be walking through like every single chapter and like talking to you guys for like 20 minutes, because that was what I like to consider hard to watch, because it's so incredibly boring and long. So instead, I'm going to draw it for you guys. If you guys haven't seen Part 1, I'm be honest, I wouldn't be too worried about it. That thing was hard to watch. And the book itself, like the entire first part, is all just about like politics and stuff, and like a lot of the main characters die anyway. So it's not super important. But yeah, chapter 1 starts out with Jessica and Paul in the desert. So Jessica is Paul's mom, and Paul right here is going kind of insane. He's like having all these like visions and prophecies, and his brain is like short-circuiting, and he's like going insane, pretty typical stuff. Paul is like tweaking out as usual, because he's like seeing all these visions and stuff, just as he had in the end of the last book. And they put on their still suits, which are like these these are like these really high-techy suits that like recycle almost all of your body's water. Like, I think there's like some reference to being like a thimble's worth was like left over. So they put on their still suits, and yeah, then the chapter ends. Also, sorry about that, I'm right on this side now, don't worry, I won't be like covering up in there, everybody can't see it. Anyway, for chapter 2, we have a new character known as Wait. He was previously in the Duke's army. The Duke is dead, and the Duke is also Paul's dad. And he's dead. The entire empire is fallen, so he's like out on the run, and he has like a couple of his guys left. Most of them are all dead, so he has like a few guys on his team over here. And then they find some wild Fremen. So Fremen are people who live in the desert the entire time. They have a lot of desert power, and they are also incredibly good fighters, as is shown by here, because these people are like all dying. They have still suits, but they're like running out of water, they're dying, they're in the middle of the desert, and these people show up and they're like, who are you guys? And we're like, we're part of the Duke's army. And they're like, okay, the Duke is kind of cool, we'll like not kill you guys for your water. And then all of a sudden, these people are all standing over here, just having a good time. The Harkonnens find them. And the Harkonnens, I'll put the Harkonnens over here. Harkonnens, they are the ones that killed the Duke, the ones that are now taking over the planet, essentially. So they send what's known as an ornithopter, I think, as I pronounce it. It's weird to pronounce. I think it's an ornithopter. And it's like this weird, like, winged thing. It's like, ooh. In the book, they have wings. I don't know if that's actually in the movies or not. There's like 2 of the people over here. These guys are the Fremen. They're just chilling. And then all of a sudden, boom, sneak attack. All around the ornithopter, more Fremen jump out, and they take down the helicopter and kill the people inside. And then, of course, they steal people's water, because that's what they do. Like, they just, like, when they kill people, they take all the water out of their bodies. It's a little creepy, but, like, yeah. This ornithopter is now taken over by the Fremen. And they're like, oh, dang, okay, well, we just took that ornithopter. This is awesome. We have an ornithopter now. Out of nowhere, a frigate appears. They didn't really describe what a frigate looks like, but I was going to make it a giant square. So this is a frigate. And it has, like, a ton of people in it, like, hundreds of people. And then these people are like, oh no. And the people inside of the ornithopter, without even hesitating, just instantly sacrifice themselves, and they run straight into the frigate and blow it up. It's all blown up now. Now the Fremen are like, okay, that made sense, that's logical, worth it to sacrifice 2 people in the ornithopter in order to take out the frigate. But then the people who are in Hawait's army, who were not originally Fremen, are like, oh my goodness, what in the world? And that's where chapter 2 ends. So in chapter 3, we're back with Jessica, and they're just like, okay, well, I guess we need to walk along the desert somewhere. They just start walking, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, an ornithopter appears. Like, boom, ornithopter. And they're like, oh my gosh, we're gonna die. But then it turns out that inside of the ornithopter was Idaho, who is a military general who was part of the Duke's army. He's a good guy. And with him is the Fremen, like, main leader dude. He's Kynes. So then Idaho and Kynes are like, okay, time to rescue you people, and they get rescued. It's pretty awesome. The ornithopter is going along. Jessica, Paul, Idaho, and Kynes. Those are the 4 people in here. So they go inside of here. Idaho stands guard here. They're now, like, inside of the base inside of the mountain. And he guards the entrance to the secret room where Jessica and Paul and Kynes have a meeting. There's also a bookcase back here. We'll talk about that later. So yeah, they're talking, and Kynes is like, I mean, he's not actually part of the Duke's army. He's just like there, and he's like, why should I actually be saving you guys? Because he's having a lot of like internal conflict about it. And then Paul, being like the absolute mega genius he is also like absolutely tweaking out. There's like these awesome list of reasons why he's gonna like reform the planet, and then like all this stuff is like super cool. And then this door opens for a second, and they see that this guy over here is like losing his arm. He's like losing his arm, you know, something like that. And there's like a whole ton of bad guys over here. These guys are all bad guys, and they're trying to kill him. And they're like, oh no, we gotta close the door. So they just leave Idaho there. He dies, and then they Paul, using his like insane tweaking, I'm insane smart skills because he's Paul, is like, I know you have a secret passageway through here. And then they go like all the way through like this winding trail, all the way through like this winding maze of stuff everywhere. And then they get to a secret room with an ornithopter in it. And then they actually leave Kynes, and Kynes is like, I'll find you guys later, just trust me. And then Paul and his mom, Jessica, get in the ornithopter. So they're out escaping, you know, as they do. When all of a sudden, boom, 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 there's like a frigate and another ornithopter, and all these things are chasing after them. And they're like, oh no, we need to run. So they start running, and there's a massive hurricane. And like the hurricanes on this planet are like not possible to deal with. They're on like a desert planet that's like full of thunder, lightning, but there's no water, it's just dust. They're like, okay, we gotta fly into the storm. And they fly into the storm, and they're like spinning in circles and like almost dead and stuff. Cause like, okay, no one survives the storms in Arrakis. That's just not possible. Arrakis is Dune, by the way. Dune is Arrakis, same thing. I don't know why they had two names. So they just fly into the storm, and then who knows? Did they live? Did they die? I have no idea. Now we're on to chapter 4, and chapter 4 is from the perspective of the Baron. The Baron is very fat. That's like his entire personality. He's just fat. And he's just talking his head off. And he's talking to his old nephew. He's like, his nephew's pretty old, but he's fat, but he's not as fat. The Baron's like incredibly powerful and incredibly evil, but the Meathead's just like incredibly evil. He's not very powerful. He's just like underneath the Baron. So the Baron is like, we just took over this planet. It cost a ton of money to get all these troops onto this planet, all these like ships onto this planet. So we need to make a ton of money back. So I need you to like squeeze every single last drop out of the spice mines, because the spice is how they make all their money. And he's like, okay, I'll do that because I'm also evil. And then they conspire to pretty much like be terrible people. Anyways, now it's time for chapter 5. We cut back to the ornithopter that Paul and Jessica were in, and they of course make it out alive, but their ornithopter is like all ruined. It's like all wrecked. So we have Paul and we have Jessica, and they're just like, okay, well, where do we go? And Paul is like, I am super powerful and I can see into the future. We need to start walking. So they just start walking. But as they're walking along, you know, all of a sudden Jessica just falls into the sand. She's under the sand now. And then Paul's like, oh no, my mom is buried. So he's like, I need to unbury her. Which would obviously be really bad, but like, Jessica is also kind of magical, and she starts like sand breathing first form or something random like that. And so he digs her up, pulls her out, and it is great drawings. So they rescue her, but then there's still the pack underneath the sand, so like, oh no, so then they like spray foam all over the place and create a cave, and they get their pack out. It's like a whole thing. But that's it for chapter 5. That's all that happens. Alright, we're on chapter 6 now. In this one, Halleck, or Gurney Halleck, his full name is, he travels with the Fremen after they like destroyed the magic interconnector over here or whatever. And they go and they find a smuggler port on one of the... And then once they find the smuggler port, he talks to this dude who's like in charge of smuggling stuff. He's like sitting in a chair, you know, like a desk here, and there's like smuggler port stuff all around. They decide to like work together, and Halleck is like, okay, I will pay off my debt to you, whatever, as long as you help me kill the evil Baron, because the Baron is super fat, and fat equals evil, so. Alright, chapter 8 was pretty boring, I'm gonna be honest, so I'm gonna keep it pretty short. Pretty much Kynes, you know, the dude who was with Idaho and Jessica when they went to the whole place. Turns out he actually got captured, and then like interrogated and all this stuff, and he got thrown back into the desert. And he's just like literally dying with like hawks above his head and stuff. And like also there's like a whole thing where like his dead dad is like monologuing in the sky about like spice and how it was made and stuff, and he's like, shut up, I'm dying, and he's like, spice is made by the worms. After a while he's like dying, and he's like almost dead, when all of a sudden the ground just blows up, and then he gets sucked underground. So he like is buried under the ground where it's like all wet, and then he suffocates to death, and that's it, he's dead now, bye. Oh, looks like I actually skipped chapter 6. That was actually really an important chapter. Anyway, we're back to Jessica and Paul, they're in the desert, and there's this massive open expanse in front of them, and then you get to these mountains all the way over here. But if they go on the sand, they're gonna get eaten by worms, right? Because the worms, like, they go to noise and everything, so like you can't just go out in the sand or else you're gonna die. So then they start walking. So what they do in order to counter this is they have a thumper, which is just like a thingy, and it just starts thumping the ground over and over again. And that attracts the worms over here, like the big giant worm dudes with their teeth and everything. They come to this instead of attacking them. So they start walking across, and that's when the famous line comes out. Walk without rhythm, so the worms can't tell where you step, whatever, you know, whatever that garbage was. And then they like walk all weird, like shift, like slide, shift, shuffle. But then they hit drum sand over here, and they're like, drum sand, because then the drum sand goes like, and everything starts shaking, because I don't really know, drum sand exists. And the worm is like, I hear drum sand, and he starts attacking them and like heading over here. And then they jump into this cleft in the rock and hide. The worm's over there like trying to find them, and then there's another thumper that goes off like way over here somewhere, and then the worm disappears and goes after them. And that's important because in chapter 8, which is what we're on right now, we see Paul and Jessica are inside of the cave, and they start walking this way. Dude, this cave is crazy. This is like so cool. There's like some almost dead bushes and stuff. Like this is like major progress because everything on Arrakis is so dry and dead. And by the time they get to here, they're like, dang, I bet there was some Fremen who lived in here and like who occupy this place sometimes. And then all of a sudden there's like a voice and it's like, yeah, there is Fremen in here. Bom, bom, bom. Oops, I meant chapter 9. This is supposed to be chapter 9 the entire time. And they like jump down and they're like, why should we not kill you? And well, Paul is like, this is Paul now. Well, you know, Kynes, he said not to kill me. He sent all these messages and stuff. And he's like, okay, fair enough. But then like, okay, well, what about you, Jessica? And Jessica doesn't really have a good reason. So they're like, okay, well, we gotta kill you now. It's just what it is, you know. And then all of a sudden, she grabs this guy by the neck and starts choking him. And then Paul climbs onto the ceiling like an absolute monkey. And then it turns out there's also like a ton more Fremen in the room. Like, let's say like 20 or something. Oh my goodness, what was that? And Jessica's like, if you hurt me, I'm gonna kill him, and you know, all this kind of stuff. Like, you know, like the typical fighting stuff. And then this guy who's the leader is like, wow, you're actually really strong and good at fighting because you managed to get us when like the Fremen are like amazing fighters. So they're like, okay, well, never mind, you're worth not killing. So they don't kill her. And pretty much they just decide to all be friends now. And Jessica and Paul join the Fremen tribe. Out of all these Fremen people, there's also a girl. And she happens to be the same age as Paul. So now they're like all talking and everything. And they're like in love and whatever, I don't know. And yeah, they're like best friends now. It's been like 2 minutes since they're trying to kill each other. Actually, chapter 10 was really boring, I'm be honest, guys. They just like talked in the cave for like weird religion stuff and Fremen and the fact that they're all heading to a city. So the important thing that we learned out of chapter 10 is that they're heading towards the Fremen like home base area. They're also paying like the space industry, the guild, to not have any satellites, so the satellites can't see that they have a secret area. So like they have like a secret civilization and stuff that no one knows about. That's like the entire point of chapter 10. Anyways, enough of chapter 10, time for chapter 11. Okay, so in chapter 11, we got Paul here, and one of the people from the Fremen, most of the Fremen are actually pretty cool people, they're pretty awesome, but one of them, we're gonna name him Big Meanie Head, challenges Paul to a duel. And because of like a whole ton of random stuff in politics and organization of the whole Fremen stuff, he kinda has to fight, even though he's literally a 15-year-old boy going up against like this full-grown man. So when they start fighting, they got like their swords and stuff, and then Paul is like, oh my goodness, I gotta like figure out how to fight this guy, and then he just does, and then he's dead, and then this guy dies. Big Meanie Head is dead now. He's completely dead. He's all gone, all dead, all gone, all gone. He's dead. He's so dead. He didn't even stand a chance. He's just dead. So yeah, then we have Paul, who like everyone's like, oh my goodness, he didn't die? This is crazy. So then the random girl comes up and she hugs him because that has to happen. It's a book. Like if there's not romance in a book, what are you even reading? So yeah, they start hugging, and then Paul goes like all crazy. He's like, because he like killed someone, and he like sees the future of him like taking over the entire universe pretty much, and he's like, no, this is awful. I don't want to take over the entire universe. He starts tweeting out like he does because he's Paul. He does that all the time. Chapter 12. So since Big Meanie Head is like dead now, they all like hold a funeral for him. Yeah, they're all talking about him. And pretty much they just like take turns teaching his stuff. It's kind of weird, but like it's all like really respectful and everything with like their culture and everything. So like they all take turns taking all this stuff. And then Paul takes this like ukulele thing. It's not called that, it has like a weird name, but it's like, yeah, you know. So he's like, okay. And then also they give him all of Big Meanie Head's all of his water. They like extract all the water from his body somehow. They just can do that like really quickly and easily in this universe. So they take all the water out of his body and they give it all to Paul. And apparently that's worth like a ton because it's like, you know, an entire body worth of water. So that's all over. These people are all gone. And then, of course, he uses his guitar to like serenade his new girlfriend person, Shani. This is Shani. So then Paul's mom looks over and she's like thinking to herself like, man, I don't know if this is good. I should like worry about that stuff, but he doesn't say anything. But Paul counters that by thinking like, by looking into the future and tweaking out and being like, yeah, my mom is like actually gonna like try to kill me in the future, and like my mom is actually like gonna be like one of my worst enemies. Oh no, because he's like can see into the future because he's Paul, and Paul is based like that. All right, chapter 13 changes scene entirely. So now we see the Baron, you know, really fat dude. He's like really fat. You know, remember he's like really fat, and he's like talking politics with these other two like political figures, but they are watching as this guy's nephew, who's actually like a really interesting dude, ends up fighting in a gladiator arena. And it's like a whole thing. Like he like stages the fight to make it look like he's been staged against him, but he actually intended that on purpose so that people think he's a hero. But then he like tricks this person to gain murder, so he's dead, but he like kills himself like in a weird like honorable way. And then he's dead, everyone like celebrates him, and the Duke didn't know what was happening, and like the Duke actually really likes his nephew, so he's like, who did this? Was it these people? Or was it like the trainer dude who like trained the gladiator? He's like all mad, he's trying to figure out what happened, and this guy's like, yes, I pulled it off, I did this trickery thing where like people's gonna think I'm a better person now, even though it's actually awful. And that's like all that happens. But it also talks a lot about like their home planet, and like the home planet of the Baron, who's like super evil, and like the whole evil organization of like the Harkonnens. It's really sad. Like there's a ton of trash everywhere. No one's really happy. I mean, the Baron isn't even that evil. He's just like a product of the situation he lives in. Everyone on that planet is just kind of cutthroat and sad and lying all the time. Oh well, he's still a bad guy. That's the end of chapter 13. Anyway, chapter 14. So in this one, Paul and Jessica finally make it back to like the secret hideout place of the Fremen. And then it turns out, this is revealed pretty soon actually, that you know Big Meanie Head, the dude that Paul just killed? Well, Big Meanie Head had a wife and kids. And according to their culture and system, now Paul is like responsible for them and has to take care of them. So he's like, I'm not going to marry you because you're really old. But she's like, well, I'm still kind of young, but it's weird. It's like it's weird. So then he now like takes on this like Big Meanie Head's wife as like a servant, and then like owns their house, and then like he's like, yeah, it's like whole thing, and then he's like still 15 though, you gotta remember that, and yeah, okay. I seriously doubt this part made it into the movie. I'm curious to watch the movie and see what happened for this part of the book. Now, Paul and his new servant, who is the person he killed's wife, he walk around the city, like tour all of it, and it's like this factory for dew collectors so they can grow plants everywhere. Yeah, that's the end of chapter 14. Anyways, on to the very last chapter, chapter 15. This one is really weird, and I don't think I'm really going to be able to do it justice by drawing it, but like here's some stick figures to look at while I explain what happened. This is old lady person, this is Jessica, this is Paul, and this is the other person, Paul's girlfriend. Jessica drinks this poison, and then magically, because she has Bene Gesserit powers, she turns the poison into not deadly poison, and then she like goes insane, she starts tweaking it like Paul always does, and then this person reaches into her consciousness and then they start like thinking together in a way, like having this like combined consciousness. And this person is a Bene Gesserit, like this, she's like this like weird like leader thing, and she like gives Jessica all of her memories. This isn't Jessica's expecting, by the way. She understands everything that's going on. This is like something she knows Richard love, but it's still pretty crazy. So they like can like see each other's thoughts and memories, and they like think together for a little bit, and then she literally just dies, and then gives Jessica all of her memories, but this, like, you gotta remember the old. And Jessica's like, okay, it's not poison anymore, so you guys can drink it. There's also like a ton more Fremen over here, but they don't really ever get talked about, so I'm not gonna talk about them. They both start tweaking out. Like, they have like visions of the future, and they can like see that they like end up like getting married and stuff, even though they've known each other for like a day at this point. So they see them getting married, and they're like all like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But then like they get like start hugging and stuff. So they're like really in love now, but also like absolutely terrified of their minds and tweaking out. And then it ends. That was the end. I hope you guys like this video. If you guys are interested in what happens next in the story, you could 1, read the book. 2, you can watch, actually I don't think the movie for the next part's out yet. I don't know much about the movies, but I think that there's like a 3rd movie that hasn't actually come out yet, which is going to be tomorrow's video. 3, you can watch my follow-up video tomorrow where I explain the last part of the book, because I kind of have to. I hope you guys like this video. If you didn't, I'm gonna upload a very similar one tomorrow anyway, so deal with it, I guess. Sorry about that. I think that I'm never going to read a book as content again ever again, because this was painful and took way longer than I thought. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I know I'm a little behind on videos and everything, but that'll all be caught up soon. I'm still trying to like get back in the emotions, get back in there, you know, get going again. So this video is just all about the book. Tomorrow's video is gonna be all about the book, and then after that, I'll be back to normal and I'll have like the full walk through the day and everything. But like, I just got stuck on this book now, so I gotta finish it. So yeah, bye bye guys, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye, bye bye.